All right, we are live. Um, so, Ellen, we'll just give it a few minutes and let people get on, and I will be happy to. Hey, Laureen, nice to have you with us, or Lauren. Not exactly sure if how that's pronounced. Um, I will just send questions for you so that you can do what you need to do with Jake and just kind of be working with all of that. And I will, if people have questions, they can ask in the comments, and then I will vocalize those to you so you don't have to be watching the screen all the time. Hey, Josie, welcome.
I think one thing I love about Substack is how many connections and friends that I have made. I find it actually just expansive.
I know.
I spent a little bit of time on Instagram, and I thought this was not for me.
No.
There wasn't just a lot of spot content. And being
More.
on Substack, there's just so many ideas and people's creativities and
I know, it's
laughter
beautiful.
when people put their little sketches on and personal notes. I really think it's a great platform.
It
And
is.
for
It is.
people
It's amazing.
who are curious, who want to learn, who want to sort of share, like in the old village square. I think
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the part of what my mission is about the community part. I love the food, but the community is really such a big part. So I want to say hello to Mark Thomas. He is one of my very favorites. His posts are him and Hero are my favorites. I thought hello to Bruce and Christine. Oh my goodness, Christine is on. And then I know I missed Harshita. Welcome. So we're going to give it a few minutes, guys, if y'all don't mind, just to let people get on a little bit.
I'm thrilled to see all these names. There are people we've been writing notes back and forth.
Yeah,
And it's really great to, get to have a little bit more personality here behind it for all of
I
us.
agree.
I hope we get to chat. I like to be very interactive.
Yeah, and that's what I really love about this is that even though it's not quite like a Zoom or something where you're seeing someone's face, people can make comments and then we can answer those and have a bit of interaction. So it's really fun. To me, this is why I do it. Is it's just for it's just for the interaction. So we're gonna just give a couple of minutes here and then we will get started. I guess, well, first off, for those of you who don't know me, I'll just go ahead and get this out of the way. I am Jenn Sharp, and I have two stacks. One is a Ruin Shoe Entertaining, and one is Sharing Kitchens Live. So my mission is really just to bring terrific Substack food writers and cooks to you, the public. And we have had a blast doing this for the last 6 or 7 months. So today I have Ellen Kornmehl, who I am so excited, Dr. Ellen Kornmehl, with us today. I wanted to wish everyone happy holidays. I see a couple of my followers and a few of yours. I want to wish everyone. I hope everyone had a lovely holiday season. And I took a little bit of a step back and just enjoyed the holiday with the family and whatnot. I also have a wedding coming up this year and the retreat for the food writers on Substack in March. So I'm just going to be doing my SKLs once a month instead of twice now. Um, but anyway, so as a segue, I just wanted to my normal stack is me making a cocktail and cooking New Orleans food, and which can sometimes be very unhealthy. But I the main constant throughout my life has been the knowledge that nature is a healer. My grandmother was healed of cancer through natural methods, and throughout my entire life, from the time I was born, I've known that, and so it's really set a course for me. I owned an organic grocery store. They owned a health food store my whole life. It's been a mission, and so on one side, there is cocktail shaking and New Orleans debauchery, and on the other side is this constant thread through my life about health. So, food is really that vehicle to me. And I am really excited today to have Ellen because we are not really using, for me, the R word resolutions, instead, more of a reset. And so I'm happy to have her with me today. And she and her son, Jake, who is helping her in the kitchen.
I'm lucky to
This is Jake, just such a cutie. Hey, Lisa is on from Australia. Hey, Lisa.
say shout out to Lisa. I
Yay.
want her to get up in the middle of the night. By the
Yes.
way, dream.
Sometimes she's up at 3 a.m. to get here. I don't know what time it is over there now.
Lisa, I'm gonna send Jake to you someday. His dream is to go travel through Australia.
Yeah.
Love it. My son did it.
So
My
first
son
of
did a
all,
couple times.
we're honored that you invited us to your Sharing Kitchens Live. And I agree with you. I write the Eating and Feeding Substack. I'm retired now, but I was a practicing oncologist I'm Harvard trained and practiced as academic faculty in Harvard hospitals, the Mass General, the Dana-Farber, and some outlying hospitals here around Boston. I did a lot of women's care, breast cancer care, as a radiation oncologist, and I'm also both a childhood cancer survivor and an adult cancer survivor myself. So when I, retired, I noticed that my friends were taking information about how they should eat, mostly from their personal trainers when they went to the gym. So there was like a lot of whey powder at superhuman protein levels. And then we went through gluten-free trends. And then what I call the sort of absence diets. It's what can't you eat?
Right.
I'm no longer eating cheese. I omitted bread.
Yeah.
Everybody went gluten-free.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, people are getting sort of information from the media and popular trends that are misguiding them, because gluten-free was just a way to push people to eating very, very high glycemic foods, which wasn't great for insulin stability. And I thought,
Right.
what I would love to have is sort of one place where you can really get credible nutrition information, what's emerging, how are things evolving, and marry it to strategies that were doable in the kitchen. Because we mostly have two-income families. People are beleaguered by the time they get home
Yeah.
at the second shift,
True.
and I wanted people just to have an armamentarium of strategies where they could quickly put together meals from fresh produce, and people would be back to cooking at home. We have a whole
Right.
generation of kids. I've been promoting college kids and young people cooking recently.
Yes.
We have a
I
whole
love that.
generation of kids who really aren't seeing cooking in their
Yeah.
homes because it's a lot of takeout or Hello Fresh and Blue
Yeah.
Plate dinners that arrive in the mail. And really, I think it's a life skill. So that's what Eating and Feeding is about. It's a sort of
Love it.
one-stop place. And
Yeah.
by the way, I come from a family of meat eaters
Mhm.
originally, and I had to convince them that we can eat more fresh produce, we can eat more
Right.
fish. So in sort of
Same.
raising my own family,
Yeah.
I learned ways to really get the buy-in by
Yeah.
cooking things that could really compete with restaurant quality food,
Right.
things that could compete with takeout style.
Yeah.
So nobody was ordering Grubhub behind my back.
Right.
Jake, Jake, how's the food around here?
It's pretty good.
Yeah. So,
Whenever I go to college and come back, I'm very excited to.
I love that. As a mother, I love to hear that. I want to say really quickly, two of my very favorite ladies just came on, and I want to say hello to Lolly Martin and Elizabeth Pizzonato, two of my very favorite staffers. So, yeah, and they're saying hello to you. So,
so let's do this. Let's take a quick tour of the kitchen. If you guys, it's wonderful to ever get a second life where you get a second kitchen. So we moved into this house about 2017, 2018. My kids were grown. And we came from a very small house and a very cramped kitchen. And I am honestly a little bit of a pack rat, but you can take a look around this kitchen and just maybe show them this way. Uh, it's a very white, very open, very spare kitchen.
Beautiful.
And you might think that the hospital was the main influence on the kitchen from where it came from, but the truth is we had just been to Japan and we had stayed in a ryokan. Ryokans are very small inns. They're usually set in rural places, and they're very spacious and open. And I was my mood was so transformed by being in these very spare, sort of like
Right.
negative space where you can really appreciate the way that the light dances around the room. I found it very calming that it took the
Yes,
pressure down.
I
So
agree.
Japan was actually the main inspiration behind the kitchen.
It's
uh,
beautiful.
I designed the hood myself and had somebody fabricate it. Again, this was my great indulgence after a life of working.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to, before I sort of show folks this, we have no rules. So we actually put together a Vermont farm table with these chairs that are very old antique French country empire
I
chairs.
love that style.
And then these are made by a San Francisco firm that is a sustainable firm that makes chairs for restaurants actually pretty comfortable. Then they come in a box. That's a very they buy and tend to make them in a very slender box that they can ship around the
Right.
country for sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
Just easily assemble. And Jake, if you want to go around that way, you can show them. I have a passion for old things and new things. I like mixing things. And over years we're here in Boston, Massachusetts. We spent many years really enjoying nature around New England. And there's a lot of time spent up in Maine, searching through old antique shops. And there are lots of, if you ever go up Route 1 in Maine, there are lots of little flea markets that assembled by the side of the road. And over years, I collected ironstone, um, whiteware from all over. So I built this cabinet that's made in the sort of fashion of a French mercantile, just to put all of my collectibles. I don't know, Jake, if they can see.
Right. Yeah. That's gorgeous. I have a similar passion. I am a china collector and collector of all things old and lovely.
And I went down where you were in the south, which is wonderful place. And then we have a secret door because Ellen needs lots of counter space and you need a place to be it's my Jekyll and Hyde. That's my
I love that though. That is so great because there is that tug for what you need and what you really want to have around you. So that's
So
awesome.
this is the back of that mercantile, and you can show them the chalkboard we put in. And this is what my children left me. I found it a couple of months after the last one went to college. Empty nesters at last.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, so let's get to, why don't we put the camera in the special thing Jen suggested to us.
So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment box below and I will let Ellen know.
Okay, so I think we're back in action. So we were going to show today, Jake's going to just put together a we're doing a beautiful bronzino with garlic and rosemary and parchment. So Jake's just going to show you quickly sort of how we put together. I think if any of you caught my note, I wrote the story of this
So,
bronzino. What my husband and I were at a medical meeting, and one night we caught dinner at a very, after being wined and dined around Rome, we caught dinner at, a very unassuming little trattoria. And we sat at like simple tables right on the sidewalk with all the Rome traffic whirring by us. And the waiter, who really, we didn't speak much Italian, but the waiter said he'd take care of things, brought us out bronzino. It was the first time we were introduced to it. And we still, I'd say this dish has just been etched in our memories.
Oh, wow.
And so I was able to recreate it at home. Probably it was years later that we were able to get bronzino here. I sometimes do it as a whole fish and stuff it with garlic, but what we do is we start with some garlic cloves. Jake, you want to show them the garlic oil in the camera? Let's see how this is going to work. What I could do, Jake, is let's switch the camera. Yeah, so it's a simple.
Yeah.
Jake is basically crushed some garlic. We'll put it in maybe quarter cup of olive oil with a little chili flake. You can either warm it or you can put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds and let it sit for 15 minutes. It helps the garlic really infuse through the oil, through the warming. And then Jake takes a pastry brush. I think you could keep the camera on over there, and then I can talk to you folks. He uses a pastry brush. He just brushes a coat of all of the garlic oil on there, little lemon juice, and some really fresh rosemary.
Ooh, beautiful.
I'm going to put a couple of sprigs on there.
I can smell it from here, Ellen.
Chefy people on the call today, but for my audience, my first of all, eating and feeding is about eating healthier. It is not about it's not about elimination diets. I find that when we start to talk about healthy eating, you want to wrap that up. When we start to talk about healthy eating, I think people kind of tense up, and it sounds like your mother speaking to you and your inner voice of the way you should be eating. I think it brings out people's inner critic, and I want people, rather than to think about sort of restrictive elimination diet, I want people to think about how much there is to eat creatively, and it's
right.
I mean, we just have sort of bountiful fresh fruits, produce that people often don't venture into, either because they don't have enough experience cooking them. They might not have grown up in houses that emphasize that, because we tend to kind of revert to the kitchens that we were brought up in terms of eating patterns.
Very true.
So I'm really about eating healthier. How can you make changes, and how can I help you turn out a meal in 30 to 40 minutes or less?
Right.
That's doable in your kitchen. You're not going to find sort of exotic spices in general for me, because I find that sends folks who are looking for easy ways in the kitchen sometimes in the other direction.
Right. And I think that
but
I think that sometimes you want that.
I do find that I have a lot of food writers who've taken a lot of interest in eating and feeding, because I do like to do deep dives into what's evolving in nutrition. I recently wrote about certain classes of pesticides that have been used since the 90s, that are not easily washed out of fruits and vegetables. I've written about sort of glycemia and white rice, and how we actually use a lot of black rice and pigmented rice, because they have anthocyanins, and they actually are sort of better in terms of insulin stability. Just small shifts in habits that you can make in terms of your purchasing. And purchasing power is important, because it actually shifts markets in terms of what becomes available locally to you in your stores.
Absolutely.
And what manufacturers are willing to put out. So we can actually make the food supply healthier through our purchasing decisions too.
Absolutely.
So we would typically, so Jake, you want to bring out the fish that's cooked. We find that the using parchment or foil, especially if you're going to put this on the grill, which we often do, really allows the rosemary to perfume the fish. Jake, I can actually do this.
So I want to say hello to Andres. He is joining us from Spain, I think, usually. Hello to Louisa. And I missed a couple of people here, Nance and P. Bangle, not sure first name there, but welcome. Oh, that's beautiful. Yes. Oh, that's gorgeous. That looks delicious.
Okay, so we lost a little bit of sound.
We can hear you. Can you hear me? We can hear you.
Okay, there we go. That's better.
Okay.
So we would typically serve this with a sort of as a Mediterranean style meal. So Jake has, you want to reposition this over there?
Well, the fish is beautiful. I don't know if you could hear me, but it's beautiful and it looks delicious. Oh, that's lovely. Absolutely.
Jake is going to do this. Jake is my fish eater in this household. His favorite meal, I would say, would be a salmon with greens, typically kale and beets, with a tzatziki. Here we've done. You want to take your yogurts on? He's made a yogurt. You can actually take the garlic oil that you just used on the fish, and I actually promise you, as simple as that fish dish is, it is ethereal. Every time I put it on the table, my husband, who is a very voracious eater with a voracious appetite, just melts. He's like, this is the best fish, you know. So Jake
I
is
love it.
doing beets with today we did a mint tzatziki. Sometimes I'll put tarragon or fresh thyme in there. You can use some Persian cucumbers, but that's it. This to do this with some sauteed kale is a beautiful way to serve beets. Sometimes I'll add some shelled pistachios on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to do a composed salad we have a beautiful bed of fennel. We're going to put some black olives over that. He's made some, I had him cutting earlier. We have some onions that I put in some ice water just to bring out their sweetness. You're doing a fabulous job, Jake.
He is doing an amazing job. I was just getting ready to say, Jake, you are a dream. I love when my kids cook with me. It's my very favorite.
And I taught him to cut orange supremes. And so he did. These are beautiful. He started with a hexagonal orange. He carefully removed the peel from the pith by cutting around and then cut through the membranes. And so we have some great orange supremes. And we would dress this just with a little lemon and olive oil. And and the fennel fronds and toss that all together. The fennel just perfumes the whole salad. You can sometimes I'll add some cucumber in there, but that's a wonderful way to eat a winter salad. And you're getting, of course, sort of great fiber, citrus,
Absolutely.
and olive oil and olives.
Yeah.
And you've got all of the colors here. So this is just a wonderful way to eat a Mediterranean style meal in winter. So
Beautiful.
I'm going to. Well, I like to see those hearts there. Whoever's putting them there.
I was doing little hearts on Elizabeth's note. Fennel and orange salad is the perfect winter salad.
Yeah. Very motivating for the
Yeah.
presenter. But and I have to say, much of what eating and feeding is about, especially if you are a food writer or chef, is I do it because it motivates me. It makes me sort of, we all know what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
The intellectual side of us, but what taps into what what sort of influences every decision that gets
I
made.
agree.
And I find that when I'm just simply reading about, when I'm reading about what fiber does and what fiber does for the gut, and how that interplays with basically risk and genetic risk, it's so powerful. I
Yes.
find it's highly motivating to
Yeah.
myself. So and I do think that that's where a lot of the food interests for food writers come from, because you're always balancing. I mean, perhaps you spent the day uh, testing out recipes for chocolate cake. It's good to have something right to
Yeah.
compensate for that over the next 3 days.
Yeah. Well, on that note about the microbiome in the gut, I was listening to which I listened to Rich Roll's podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with Rich Roll, but he had Dr. B, Will Bolsewitz. I never pronounce his name correctly, but they just call him Dr. B. And he's a specialist in that. And he's amazing. And so he was, I've listened to a couple of pods with a couple of discussions with him before, but this was the latest iteration. And he was talking about some really fascinating things like certain types of fiber actually feed the right hand side of the colon as the food is descending, and then certain types like resistant starch feeds the left side, and like they're finding all of this really specified science as to
Yes.
how the gut is developed. It's really amazing. It's really
Well,
amazing.
your gut is essentially a second brain.
Yeah,
There's
it
a
is a center of
huge
emotion and everything. Yep.
network that really is sensing and responding to what's going on in the gut. We're going to start to see therapeutics instead of pharmacologics. We're going to see therapeutics that are going to work through alterations in the gut microbiome. As our understanding, there are a few therapeutics in development, especially for inflammatory bowel disease.
Mm.
So it's going to be a very interesting area
Mm.
in
Well,
terms of
this has been
things that nourish your gut. As you said, resistant starch, which you could get through root vegetables. Nuts are extremely important.
mhm.
I actually start the day with a handful of nuts. We, by the way, are very big on fish for breakfast, because in terms of nutrient density,
Right.
particularly salmon, you're getting
I know.
a
It's
much more
crazy.
protein than you can get
Yeah.
in most of the high protein meals that are being marketed to you. You're
Mhm.
getting a good dose of calcium and vitamin D,
Right.
and your essential fatty acids, EPA and DHA, that
Mhm.
really or sort of dementia prevention,
Right.
cardiac risk prevention,
Right.
and they're very important for pregnant women and children.
Interesting. Well, I've been a follower, of course, through the years with just my health heritage there. So I've been a follower of all these different, all the knowledge that you pick up through the years. And you're right. There's a lot of elimination diets, and there's a lot um, of uh, doctrine out there that it becomes so overwhelming as to what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat, and there are basics we all know. We all know we should eat more vegetables, and whether you are a person who's a whole food plant-based, you don't eat meat or whatever, that's your choice, but there's something to be said for clean, healthy eating that is really a balance, and after years and years of a lot of different health schemes coming in front of me with having an organic store, my kids growing up and being into health and whatnot, and a lot of friends that followed a lot of these different ones. I think our family, we have really come to just realize the importance of, not to use a trending word, but really clean is a good word. To just you're eating the best quality that you can afford, and you're putting as many vegetables, as many colors into that, eating the rainbow as you can. So that's kind of where our general, you know, basis is.
Yeah, one of my peeves is it's very hard, especially if you're cooking for just one or two people. It's hard to be able to purchase a breadth of vegetables all at once, because you're
Yeah,
having to purchase in
sure.
quantity. I'm seeing more and more things presented bagged, I think post COVID. in supermarkets, I really try to avoid bad goods because
Yeah, me too.
the antistatics and the liners in the bags
Mhm,
that are
mhm.
being used in these produce is really
Yeah,
not so well regulated, and there's some not so great stuff there. So I try to purchase whole produce.
yeah,
So
me too.
what I suggest is, especially if you're cooking for one or two, is that you go out and you purchase a week's worth of vegetables at a time. Make sure you have plenty of cruciferous, broccoli, cauliflower, root vegetables, rutabagas, turnips, beets, because these things will last in your produce
Right,
store
right.
10 to 14 days. And then cook your way through it, starting with your fresh greens. We always will have wild arugula, kale, Swiss chard. There's so
Mhm.
many things, if I'm stir frying, even though it doesn't sound like it goes with an Asian dish, there's going to be a handful of greens that I'll throw in.
Oh,
Throw it in at
absolutely,
the
and
end
and
of
my
the
favorite way to cook is to look and see what I have, and a lot of times in gumbo fashion, that gets thrown in.
Exactly, and then you have your repertoire of kitchen sink,
Right.
dishes, right, like chilaquiles that when you need to clean out the produce drawer, but it's especially for, I think for most of the folks who are food writers, Linda and Mira, I have to say hello, I'm thrilled to have you here, uh,
Welcome, Linda.
especially for food writers. You have it's a challenge, and it makes you create more creative, and you should be willing to be that improvisational cook that has to
Yes.
sort of manage how to use something. And I'll do all sorts of things to make greens interesting. I like to use lapsang souchong tea, because I do not use processed smoked meats. So I'll take some lapsang souchong tea and just put a bit of that as I braise my greens, sort of as I finish
Oh,
them at the very end.
oh, I
Um,
like that.
Sometimes
Mm.
that gives it a nice sort of smoky flavor. We were talking about spices. I because we do very low sodium in the household, which I recommend because most people, and that is part of what the Eating and Feeding blog is about. I think most people don't have a handle on amounts,
Yes.
and let me just
I wanna welcome Michelle, Dr. Michelle, Sagan, is that the pronunciation? Welcome.
yes. Hi, Michelle. Well, I was saying before, I am so thrilled to have a little bit more personal connection through this live. This is such a terrific idea that Jen had. But sort of as we're just talking about eating low sodium, um, I so people don't. We're talking about 1,500 milligrams a day as a cap of sodium. Even a quarter teaspoon is about 575 milligrams. I think most people don't realize that because we'll see recipes, that will start with a full teaspoon of salt. And when you
Right.
think about how many folks are you cooking for, that is going to sort of ratchet up your sodium content for the day.
I
And
agree. And
even a piece of
well said.
bread can typically be 150 to 200 milligrams,
Yeah,
uh, depending on how you purchase. So I want people to have a better intuitive feel
right.
for some amounts to help guide them. So we use very little sodium. We sort of we'll typically use about a quarter teaspoon, maybe in a super stew, and have the salt shaker on the table. It's okay. For the kids, they can add back. They're never going to add back as much sodium as what typically gets programmed, especially into
Right,
chefy recipes. I find
right.
chefs can have sodium is actually about sort of palate fatigue,
Palatability. Yeah,
and most people can dial back their palate for sodium.
right.
If you
And how
change,
long do you generally, see that it takes? I've heard, a couple of weeks, 3 weeks. I've done it a couple of times because here in the South, we use a lot of salt. So I have done it a couple of times,
yeah,
but
it'll take longer. I would say 2 to 3 months, and this is why I had the opportunity. Sometimes I write for media, and I was writing for a PBS publication. I had an opportunity to interview one of sort of the foremost food scientists in terms of his expertise in taste. Most of our appreciation of food comes through our sense of smell. And
Mhm.
a little
Yes.
We have some of that on our palate as well. But she said to me, I don't understand why people don't purchase the low sodium option because most people's palate cannot actually distinguish between higher sodium and what's called low sodium in this day
That's
and
good
age.
to know.
Most people will be pleased. And if you dial back the amount of sodium you're using in your recipes, I would say about 20% every 3 weeks,
Mhm.
your palate is not going to notice the difference
Right.
in those
Right.
kind of increments, and it will
Mhm.
get you to where you want to go.
And
Now,
also the substitution of other spices. When I had my blood pressure scare last year or whatever, I'd never really been a salt watcher, a sodium watcher. And I always use sea salt and, better salts that have minerals. But I did start to count and watch and realize the amount of salt that I just generally I'm throwing on my dishes. I'm not measuring any of this. But I did start to use even more spices. I'm a spice lover, but then I started to experiment and use more spices, use turmeric, use a bit of a chili powder, use a bit, and just add some other flavors in there so that you're not without flavor. You're just offsetting a bit the need for the salt.
I love that, and I think that again, I think many of you probably are cooking with lots of spices, but for the average cook, for your patients, a lot of folks are not accustomed to spices that weren't in their home kitchens. I have a sister-in-law who, when I wrote about recipes that require cumin, just really had never experienced it.
Oh
And
my
it's
God,
the
my
easiest thing,
favorite.
right? Easiest thing to throw some cumin and some smoked paprika on
Yeah,
some chicken when you're roasting, and
yeah.
it makes the whole dish sing.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
so in terms, I always have some za'atar on hand. I have a great recipe for a chicken with za'atar and farro with roasted grapes on my blog.
I need to look that up because I have some. I bought some and I've
Yeah,
not used it. So
I'll,
I have to look up your recipe.
I'll put it in salad dressing. Cardamom is a wonderful spice to put in
Oh,
salad.
cardamom, ginger, and cinnamon go in just about everything that I make that from a sweet thing, and then sometimes even in a savory dish. So yeah, I love it.
It's typically used in coffee in the Middle East, so I'll put a bit of it
Yeah,
as I'm making a drip cup of coffee. I'll
I've done
put
that
it
too.
right on top of the coffee
Oh,
grounds. You
oh.
can put it in yogurt. I actually have a chai mix. It's terrific.
When we make our hot chocolate for Christmas Eve, we do this
Yeah,
really decadent hot chocolate on Christmas Eve. And my kids, all year long, they'll say, "Well, we are going to make the hot chocolate for Christmas Eve, Mom." I'm like, "Yes, we're going to make." And it's really, like, not healthy at all. But I add, cardamom and, ginger and cinnamon to it, which is not just a very little, but it's just amazing the twist of the flavor that those bring. So it's really interesting. It's peppery, so it can be used in so many different ways, and the first experience I ever had with it, I remember to this day because I didn't know what it was, and this is probably 25, 30 years ago, and I was making a braided bread loaf, and this was my first experience with doing that, and it called for cardamom to be on the top, and I was like, "What is that?" I had to go and search out cardamom. I'd never heard of it, so
so I was going to show you. Let me just grab here. Anytime somebody goes, anytime I have someone who goes traveling who asks to bring something back, I'll ask for spices. They're
that's ex
easy to pack. This is my daughter did some time in Spain. Um, this is some pimenton. I love to use Espelette, smoked paprika. It comes in bittersweet, hot
Oh,
variety, or mild. You can choose what you want. Um, I was going to show you it's fun for the chefy chef to really venture out into unusual spices. This is some black lime that I got from Burlap and Barrel, which is a very, um, I think, responsible spice vendor. I've written a little bit about spice fraud, but it's basically used in Middle Eastern cooking. It adds sort of a nice pungent citrus flavor to
oh,
soups and stews. They put it
yes.
on Brussels sprouts. It's terrific.
Yeah, that's delicious. That sounds wonderful.
In terms of fats, um, we use mostly olive oil in this household. When I use neutral oil, I've taken to using uh, an organic cold expeller pressed canola oil. And I will use butter sparingly. I like people to think about the fats when you're sort of venturing beyond olive oil as a way to add a little bit of luxury to dishes.
Yeah.
So it could mean maybe steaming a fish with ginger and scallions, and then at
Mhm.
the very end, heating a little bit of sesame oil and just
Mhm.
uh, putting that on top of it. It adds
Oh,
just a
that sounds
nice richness to the dish.
yeah.
When I
And
do
sesame has
scallops,
flavor. Yeah.
yeah, I'll do a little bit of brown butter. It might be just 1.5 to 2 tablespoons.
Mhm.
And as I finish my scallops, a little lemon and brown butter, and that's really all we need. So,
Right, and
and
that's a
these are
great suggestion is to top rather than to cook it in it. You know, like, instead of, grilling that fish completely and then in the butter and whatnot, just do a little drizzle until you get the flavor without having the saturation of the butter in the dish. That's
yeah,
great.
it's
That's
wonderful. So it's really about learning moderation rather than, as you said, these sort of elimination practices. And I think when people get a feel for that, it really opens up a lot of places to go in exploration when you're
yeah.
cooking.
I agree. My son traveled a lot, and he really opened a lot of doors for me in terms of foods, things I'd never tried. You know, he went, he did a lot of traveling in Southeast Asia and in Australia and oh gosh, he's been all over the place, but rock climbing. But he would come home with different spices and different ideas about the a way to cook foods and to create foods, and it was just such a delight. It's always been such a delight for and all of my kids are foodies. They all experiment with food and are not afraid to make a dish, and we've lived in the same house for, oh my gosh, since 95, so forever. I raised all my kids here, and we had a really small kitchen, like these cottage houses in the, 30s were, and we expanded out to make the kitchen bigger some years, and this is what it was all about, like, I had all of it was about my kids cooking with me. It's just, having enough counter space for them, having 2 chopping blocks, having 2 ovens, like, just having space for us all cooked together, so such a
What a
delight.
great way to invest family time, right? That builds so much deep connection
Yeah, yeah.
and memories for everyone to look back on as they go through life. Um, Jake, come on over here. We want to tell everybody about our cooking travels and our cooking adventures. We we do we not want to eat?
We love to eat. I'm gonna get you in the house.
I believe Jake loves to eat.
I mean, pinch me when my nearly adult son wants to spend time with mom, right?
I love it. Yes. I'm the same. I'm the same.
So we tend to build to travel around food. I'm embarrassed to say, but I'm not much for sort of entertainment restaurants where the
Right.
food doesn't really resemble the food it started out to be in
Right.
the end. I think there's a place for that, and it's like very exciting for some folks. But what gets me excited is to go to as close as I get to the coastline and eat fish at a
Oh,
beautiful trattoria right out of the
yeah.
sea. And we have had some just wonderful family experiences. I can think of an entire soccer team of Italian men who sat at a long table next to us singing songs as we were at about 6 or 7 different very simple fish dishes at a place in southern Sicily, where
Oh,
in fact, the fish was so fresh that in Sicily they'll serve uncooked shrimp, almost like sashimi,
mm,
which I would not eat in most places, but here it just was really a very special opportunity.
that's
We had the
cute.
same experience in Japan. We traveled to the western coast to Kanazawa as it was
Mhm.
opening up, which is also a port town, and just had a most magnificent sushi meal where the chef was introducing us to new things. And when you have food explorers, especially when you're raising kids who are willing to be food explorers, um, those are just so uh, uh, they're just such an exciting way to experience the world
I
around
agree.
you and to bring those back home and to recreate some of those experiences over and over again as the years go by. So we just have a lot of fun memories of those meals together, and also the people that we met who cooked them. I can't tell you how many
Yes, yes.
wonderful folks invited my children into the back of their kitchens, when you're eating at mom and pop little restaurants.
Yeah,
People really take pride in the food that
I love
they're
that
putting
so
out
much.
and how they source their food. Who've invited my kids into the back of their kitchens to see how it all works.
Oh.
They've just been just terrifically memorable experiences.
Yes, I agree. Same with our family. It's so centered around food, and part of that I think is where we live because where we live, food is not necessarily healthy, but it is the center of life here. I mean, food in New Orleans and around this part of the country. You can go to North Louisiana; it's not as much part of the life, but down here in the Boot, it definitely is, and it's very centered around seafood. I mean, seafood is everything. My husband works he has a pile driving business, so he works on the water. So he'll come home with a fresh sack of oysters, just come off the boat. And somebody will give them to him, or he'll buy them, or whatever. And so we get a lot of fresh seafood, which is really great. I remember one particular party. I had a friend from New York that came down, and I had met her through real estate. I, helped her buy a house here, and she came down from New York, and she loved oysters, like roasted oysters. So my husband and my sons pulled up all the trucks to put lighting on the barbecue in the front yard. We didn't have our deck built back then. And and they pulled out the grill, and then they just shucked this entire bag of oysters and grilled them for her. And we were just passing around platters at the party. It was so delightful. So it's just food is the center of life. It's center of our
We're fortunate to have Cape Cod right nearby, so
right.
we can get clams that we can take right out of the sand. I can tell you when I first was down there, I went out and I got the rake, the 6 foot tall rake, and the special buckets that are weighted. And I try to go out there clamming, digging up all the sediment and stones. And some fella came over to me and said, "You're doing it all wrong. You made it too complicated." And he showed me how to clam with just my feet,
Oh my
letting
gosh.
back and forth, down into the sand, get through half the time you're bringing up polished stones, when you
Right.
feel something, but then you'll bring up, really beautiful clouds that we can get.
That's
You
lovely.
show me
It's fully gone.
oh, and Jake just wanted to he was hungry, so he sampled the fish. What do you think, Jake? Give your report.
Let's just say that there's none left.
I love it.
I couldn't wait.
Yeah, everyone actually should go out and get some Bronzino and
It's so
just cook
good.
this. I promise it is so simple,
I
and
could
it
have
is
to try that.
so delicious. I hope you all get an opportunity to try it. Um,
This has
and
been just
I know actually Michelle wrote me a note because we were talking about a cod recipe, Michelle. And Michelle wrote me a note. Up here, it's going to be whitefish, which I think comes out of the Great Lakes. But I have to say, the way fish is, the technology today, most fish is getting flash frozen right on the boats. I really think even bronzino, sea bass, and what bronzino is essentially a very milder form of sea bass. It's an Italian varietal. But I think that you can get most any fish anywhere you are in the country. And there's nothing wrong with frozen because of the technology that's being used.
right.
And as I said, we do use a lot of fish here. We've gotten into conservers, tinned fish. Jake here likes to snack on crash landing, right, Jake? Likes to snack on a tuna with a jalapeno, conserva. He loves. We've gotten into sort of sardines, piri piri, that have some spice to it. It's just a wonderful snack. Sometimes I'll put a little. I think Lolly and I had a discussion going. I'll put that with a little cooling labna on a cracker, and it just hits the
Mhm.
spot for me. Um,
Mm. That
with,
sounds
think about Japanese breakfast. A roasted miso glazed salmon in the morning is very typical in Japan with some miso broth.
Mhm.
I'll do fish salads if I make salmon. The next day, anything left over goes into a salmon salad for breakfast. We'll do whitefish salads, smoked fish. I'll use smoked fish again in moderation, especially because I find I love a smoked trout. It can be higher salt content, but I might mix that. I'll make a crab dip where I put a little bit of smoked trout for the smokiness
Mhm.
with the crab. That way, sort of I'm moderating both salt and the smoke.
Yeah, when Elizabeth Pizzanato and I did our SKL, she did a smoked trout. We both did a smoked trout, dip, and that was amazing. It was so delicious, but you're right, there is that salt, you know, there
Well,
if
and
you're
that's
watching.
what I said. The new charcuterie board can be a fish board with, fish salads. And and that's sort of a wonderful thing to think about, too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I
Well, this
should
has just
just
been a
mention, I always when I talk about fish, the recommendation is 2 or 3 servings a week.
yeah,
The reason for that is that there are still, PCPs, dioxins that are residual from industrial waste management, even
uh,
back in the 70s and 80s.
mhm,
Jake says he'd eat fish 5, 6 days a week if he could. Um, I have written a fair amount. Actually, about a year ago, I wrote a post called "Fish Portend Luck" for the new year. By the way, why not better your odds? So it talks about managing what the uh, air pollutants are in fish. So again, 2 or 3 is the net benefit for uh, risk reduction balanced with the impurities. Now, there are things you can do. One is limit the big fish that you eat. You want to limit swordfish, tuna, and the bigger fish because the higher up on the chain, sort of the more concentrated that can be. The other
right,
is remove skin because pollutants tend to accumulate in the skin and in the fat layer right under it. And I would not necessarily baste. I would try to avoid basting in sort of the fish juice. You want to sort of throw that out. You can also cook on a rack. That's another possibility. Makes it a little more difficult to remove the fish, I find, from the pan. Uh,
mhm,
and you should eat smaller fish. I love to snack on herring and wine sauce. It's one of my things.
mm,
Anchovies. Mackerel is great. So if anyone's interested in sort of managing fish and pollutants, you can take a look at that particular post. I do tend to buy my salmon from the Faroe Islands. It's interesting. About a third of their economy is based on salmon farming. And so it is one of the few places that the aquaculture, which is primarily regenerative, is highly regulated. There typically is no antibiotic use there, and because it's so important to the economy, the nutrient value, the farmed fish is almost safer than ocean fish. I also should say that we limit freshwater fish like trout, whitefish, probably to about once a month because there was a very good paper published about a year and a half ago, I believe by the Norwegians, where they sampled. Actually, you want to see that there have been post-market food surveys done. They actually sampled fish from different regions and fish coming out of the Great Lakes and freshwater bodies in the United States. The EPA has now issued an alert about this. Really do have higher levels of contaminants. And as you would think in Norway, that they would not have that issue because we think of Norway as sort of a more pure place than the United
right,
States.
cold water,
Industrially,
right,
they're having the same problem there in fresh water. So,
mm,
there's not a reason to eliminate freshwater fish, but I just try and moderate it to about once a month. Um,
right, right. Well, this has just been absolutely delightful, Ellen. I just want to thank you so much for bringing this knowledge and sharing your lovely son and your kitchen and your thoughts with all of us. It's been really terrific. I want to say really quickly, anyone who is not a follower of Ellen, I think everyone is, but Eating and Feeding is her stack. And also, if anyone would like to follow us, we would appreciate it. Sharing Kitchens Live. We have next David Leet that's going to be with us February 13th. And we also have our Substack Food Writers Retreat, which is March 19th through 22nd. And we just have, I think, one slot left. So if anybody is interested in that, I can give you some information on that. And again, thanks so much, Ellen and Jake. Thank you for being here with us today.
And I want to thank you, Jen. I think Jen is just a great connector of people. And I love what she's done for the Substack community and bringing us all together. It's just, I'm honored again to really have been invited. Just a wonderful thing that she's doing. And again, I can't tell you how rewarding it is to have been connected to all of you. I really appreciate all the dialogue that we have going back and forth. Food is just enormously fascinating to me. I will never cease to be fascinated by food and food writing.
Me too.
I love communicating with all of you about that.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, thank y'all so much. And until next time, we'll see you then. Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Jake.
Bye, everybody.
Of course.